Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
We are joined now with Ray LaHood, former U.S. Secretary of Transportation. And the reason that I wanted to talk to Ray LaHood is I'm on the list for, I think it's the City Club of Chicago, and he's going to be a part of a discussion about bipartisanship. For those of you who are young, that word means that people on both sides of the aisle used to work together. They would find issues that they could support, whether you were a Republican or a Democrat, and they would try to promote and pass legislation that would fix things or create new things that they felt should be there. Bipartisan means both sides of the aisle. I know it's not something, if you're young, you've seen in your lifetime, but it used to exist, and Ray is going to be talking about it. Ray, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for including me in your show again. Appreciate it.
It is always a pleasure. Now, how are you going to, what is going to be a part of this talk? Are you going to tell the audience what you remember about the days when there was bipartisanship? Do you have a plan for how we might bring it back? Talk to me about this.
Well, it's going to be myself and Nikki Budzinski. Congresswoman Budzinski represents a congressional district in central and southern Illinois. And she asked if I would do this program with her because I assumed the responsibility of running the Edgar Fellows program, which is one of the preeminent bipartisan programs in Illinois, and one that where we just concluded in Champaign, Illinois, on the University of Illinois campus with 40 Edgar Fellows talking, listening to speakers and talking among one another about how to work together and to make things happen together. And I think what the 40 fellows discovered was something that is not really something that people think about. Is there's a lot more bipartisanship that goes on in Congress and in Springfield than gets reported, and a lot more bipartisanship that leads to solutions for problems than actually gets reported. And this was a part of what the Edgar Fellows heard during their week-long week together in Champaign on the University of Illinois campus.
I would assume that the way you bring about bipartisanship might be different in a state legislature rather than in Congress. Not necessarily because the issues are so much different, but in Congress, there is so much more of a spotlight. I mean, there have been times when Mike Johnson, the leader of the majority in the House of Representatives, has been rumored to tell people that if anything is proposed by a Democrat, that has to be, you can't vote for it. You cannot vote for it. Now, that would seem not to be true since the Congress, on a bipartisan basis, put a housing bill together and then voted for it, and it became law. But, I mean, that bill got so much attention, I think, Ray, because it was such an exception to the way politics has been going. It was like, oh, my God, look, they worked together. Oh, my God. It stood out because of its rarity. I don't know what we do with that, Ray.
I do think there is a lot of bipartisanship that goes on within the Transportation Committee in the House. There's an enormous amount of bipartisanship that goes on among the members of the House Intelligence Committee and the work that they do to keep our country safe and keep the world safe, and work with people from the CIA and the National Security Council and National Security Agency. And those kinds of bipartisan solutions that are really debated and really carried out really don't get the attention. The one that you mentioned Joan, is quite exceptional. The housing bill that passed both the House and Senate. In the House, well over 370 votes. In the Senate, I think 86 or 87 votes out of the 100 senators. But it was work that was done the old-fashioned way, senators and House members sitting down, talking about their differences and reaching agreement. And we know that housing is one of the biggest issues, affordable housing, one of the biggest issues facing Americans today. And that was something where Congress worked together. So it does happen. It happened with a major piece of legislation, and it happens a lot in the Transportation Committee, in the Intelligence Committee, in the Agriculture Committee, committees where people just sit down and talk about their differences and come to compromise. I think the one thing that's important, Joan, to mention is, and this is something that we emphasize a great deal at the Edgar Fellows Program, and that is compromise is not a bad word. Our system is based on compromise. Our system of solving problems is based on compromise. And when members do it on their own, ignore their leaders, and just get the work done, then the American people benefit from that.
You know, Ray, I can't expect you to get inside anybody's head and figure out what they were thinking. But housing was one of the areas that Donald Trump campaigned on, that there was going to be some reform. His own party came up with this bipartisan bill. It, like you say, passed both houses. And then Donald Trump refused to sign it, sort of went away. He didn't veto it, but he didn't sign it. So after a certain amount of time, if the president doesn't sign a bill but doesn't veto it, it becomes law automatically. That politically, was there a political reason for that I missed or that I don't understand?
Joan, you're very well informed, and you know the reason that Trump didn't sign the housing bill, even though he supported it, was because he wanted the Congress to pass the SAVE Act, the bill that would require identification for people to vote and really get into the business of having the federal government manage elections rather than local officials or state officials. And we know that across America, when there's an election, in my hometown of Peoria, the elections are conducted by Peoria County officials, people that are charged with that responsibility. We've had no issues, no controversies, no problems with our elections over the years. And that's true of almost every county in the country. But because Trump has got this burr under his saddle in terms of wanting the Congress to pass election reform, he was not willing to go along with a very bipartisan bill that will allow for affordable housing, and it was done in a bipartisan way. So he let it pass without his signature.
Did you ever have a problem getting the administration you were a part of to trust your judgment or believe in what you were saying? And part of the reason I'm asking that is relates to the SAVE Act, because from everything that's been widely reported, a leader of the Senate, John Thune, has repeatedly told the White House that there are not the votes to pass the SAVE Act. He's repeatedly told the White House there aren't the votes to get rid of the filibuster, because Donald Trump seems to think that that's a magic trick that will get the SAVE Act passed. But it doesn't seem like what he is saying is having any impact. Is that normal? Did you ever have, when you were Secretary of Transportation, did they ever look at you and say, "Oh, Ray, that's not right. That's not true. We know you can do different. We know you can do better"? Is that normal politics?
Well, look, Trump does things a lot different than most other administrations, no question about it. when I worked with President Obama for 4.5 years as his Secretary of Transportation. We worked hand in glove. Uh, we were in constant communication about his priorities for transportation, included high-speed rail, included money for transit, money for highways. Uh, we emphasized a great deal safety, particularly in every mode of transportation, on the roads, in the air, on buses, and we work closely with every stakeholder in transportation. They knew what President Obama's priorities were when it came to transportation, and we worked very well together. This administration does their own thing, and I think that President Trump obviously has a very good relationship with Speaker Johnson. They get along together very well, and President Trump would like for the Senate leadership to do away with the filibuster, which would make 60 votes, the number of votes that are needed to pass the SAVE Act. And Senator Thune knows there aren't the votes in the Senate to get rid of the filibuster, and there aren't the votes in the Senate to pass this legislation. And it's very, very difficult conversations that he has had with the president and made it clear. And other people in the Republican Party have had difficult conversations with President Trump, but he wants it his way. And his way just simply is not going to work when it comes to the SAVE Act.
I'm talking to former Transportation Secretary Ray LaHood. We are going to take a break, and we're going to be back with much more after this.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
On August 27th, that's a Thursday at the end of the month. I have to check these things, Ray, because I get confused. It is a Thursday, August 27th. Nikki Budzinski and former U.S. Transportation Secretary Ray LaHood are going to get together for an event put on by the City Club of Chicago. And they are going to talk about bipartisanship and, frankly, whether or not it is still possible today. Now, Ray, having attended these luncheons before, I know that before you guys take questions, you both get a chance to just talk and talk about the issue and how you want to frame it. Give us, if you don't mind, a little bit of a preview of what those remarks are going to be like from you.
Well, thank you, Joan. Again, thanks for having me on your show today. I'm going to talk about the Edgar Fellows Program. We just finished our 14th year, a group of 40 elected officials, mayors, county board people, state reps, state senators, people that work in the governor's office and other places around Illinois, got together and listened to speakers talk about how to make things happen, how to get things done. Compromise is not a bad word. People need to work together if they want to make a difference in the important jobs that they have. And mentoring is also a big part of the message that I delivered at the Edgar Fellows Program. The importance of people in leadership, finding those that they work with and come in contact with, giving them the kind of opportunities to learn from leaders and to learn how to be a leader. So not only does the Edgar Fellows Program really promote the idea of leadership and vision, it also promotes the idea of mentoring others who will follow on once you decide as an elected or appointed official to move on to other opportunities.
What are the requirements to be eligible for an Edgar Fellowship?
For this class, again, we picked 40 people. We had 150 people who were recommended, and we go through the list. And Really, the only requirement is to be involved in some way, shape, or form in public service as an elected representative or senator or mayor or county board person, or someone who works in government, may work for a congressman, may work for, uh, may be in Congress. This year we had two Congress people speak. The governor spoke. So the major number one requirement, Joan, is that they be involved in public service and active in public service.
You know, something that I've observed is it seems it's always been difficult and required a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of heart and soul to get elected to an office. But these days, you know, the people who are running now grew up with social media as a part of their life. You know, when they were in high school or college or younger, just like sort of like Graham Plattner before he finally exploded. That it seems like as difficult as it was before, and certainly the opposition would do research and ways to come after you or find your weaknesses. Now it seems like everybody is under such a microscope that, to me, honestly, it's amazing that anybody runs for office anymore, Ray. Do I sound like an old fogey?
Well, look, when I ran in '94 for Congress, there weren't cell phones. People were using Blackberries, and there was no social media. And what's happened over the last several years, social media has had a huge, huge impact on politics, on running for office. You can say anything about anybody, not be accountable for it, not have to look them in the eye, not have to really confront somebody face to face. Those days are gone. And what we see happening are people saying stupid, ridiculous, untrue things about their opponents and other people and people in politics, people they don't like, and there simply is no accountability for any of it. I think the other thing, Joan, that's impacted politics today is the decline of people's ability to really read newspapers, the decline of newspapers where people can actually go and read in depth on an issue or a particular subject simply doesn't exist today. There are three, in my opinion, newspapers that really go in depth. One, Wall Street Journal, two, New York Times, excuse me, three, Washington Post to a lesser extent, I think in Chicago. Chicago Cranes is very, very good. Appreciate the way they try and get in depth on issues. But you've seen the decline of papers like the Chicago Tribune, the Chicago Sun-Times, and in hometowns all across America, like the one that I live in Peoria, our newspaper is absolutely nothing and goes in depth on absolutely nothing. And so I think the decline of people's ability to really read about issues and the uptick in the ability of people to go on AI, to use social media in a way that degrades people is playing a big role in politics and public service today.
I couldn't agree with you more. And do you see, well, first of all, let me share with you, we have a text line and people can text in and comment on discussions. And I've gotten some texters who want me to say that it just seems when politicians talk about compromise, to them, it seems like they want Democrats to compromise, but never Republicans compromise. And that sometimes compromise looks like Democrats just giving in, and that people are really upset about this, that right now, at least in the eyes of some people, bipartisanship doesn't look like two different sides coming together. It looks like one side dominating the other and getting them to fold. What would you say to those listeners who've texted that in?
Yeah, well, that simply wasn't true with the housing bill. Democrats and Republicans came together, not only in the House of Representatives with over 370 votes, but in the United States Senate with, I think, 86 or 87 votes. That means that Democrats and Republicans came together, they worked together, they compromised, they talked to one another, they worked through the issues, and the American people benefited by the fact that now there is an affordable housing bill that will affect every American and will help every American. So there are lots of situations like that, Joan. I mentioned transportation is a very bipartisan issue. Lots of things are worked out between Republicans and Democrats. Compromise is carried out by Republicans and Democrats. So it's not just a one-party situation, it's both parties.
Ray, if you were a young man coming up today, do you think you'd get into politics?
I think politics and public service does allow you to be involved. I encourage people to do it. I encourage young people to do it. It's a calling that requires a good deal of patience, a good deal of ability to work with people of all political stripes and political points of view. And I think if you understand going in that no one person gets their own way and that you have to work with others of different political points of view, you can make a difference. You can make a difference in people's lives, in solving problems, and really having some involvement in making a difference.
If I told you that I was interested in running for office, what would be the advice you would give to me other than you're too old, go away?
Well, one thing I would say, and what I do say to people who want to get involved in politics, work in somebody else's campaign. Get to know the people that are involved in politics. Get to know how the process works in terms of electability. Become somebody who works for somebody else, volunteers for somebody else. Get to know the system. And then people will get to know you and they'll know your sincerity, they'll know your interest, and you can learn an awful lot by getting involved in someone else's campaign or somebody else's service. And that's the way to really learn the system. And if you do that, you will come away with an understanding of how the system works and how you can become involved.
Is that why we see so many established politicians backing their chiefs of staff when they decide to run for office? Because it's somebody that they know has learned the system and knows how things work and knows what the job entails? Because it does seem like that is one really strong path if you want to run for elected life, is come up through somebody's system and then get their backing.
Well, Joan, that's right. I was 17 and a half years congressional staffer for two different congressmen before I ran for office. And when I did run in '94 to succeed Bob Michel, I knew many of the people in my congressional district for the work that I had done, the service that I had provided, the assistance that I had provided. I knew a lot of the political people, and it held me in very good stead in 1994 when I won the seat that was being vacated by Bob Michel. That experience was invaluable in my ability to get elected and to say to people, I do have the experience and the knowledge to make a difference and to make things work.
Ray LaHood, thank you so much for joining us. Remember, folks, August 27th, Ray and Nikki Budzinski are going to be speaking at the City Club of Chicago. You don't have to be a member to attend. Just look it up online and you can save yourself a spot. Ray, thank you so much for joining me.
I hope I'll see you there, Joan. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, you know, the bad thing is, and you should talk to these people, because I work way far north and I'm on in the afternoon, the only way I can go to the City Club is I have to take a day off. And yeah, that's so I make my apologies right now for the fact that I won't be there.
Well, thank you for allowing me to come on and talk about what I'm going to talk about at that day. Appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you too. Thanks for being here.